Who is the perfect Spider-Man? Right now you're probably saying to yourself, the answer is Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, or maybe even a comic, video game, or cartoon adaptation of the character. I asked this same question to my community and got a lot of the same types of answers. And that got me thinking, if nobody can agree on the best Spider-Man, how can we even find the perfect one? I have a few Spider-Man figures here with me today from the collection, each one representing a completely different version of this icon, and we're going to be checking them out in hopes of finding that answer. Starting with the one that started it for a lot of us.
Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
I remember sitting in a living room, DVD and player, and sitting down to watch Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man for the very first time. I mean, this was during an era when we had a lot of early 2000s superhero movies, things like Batman Begins, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, X-Men, and a lot more. Out of all of those movies that we got during that time, though, I have to say that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was the one I enjoyed the most and played the most on DVD. I mean, the DVD player was probably sick at me at a certain point because of how much I was watching that movie. So fast forward years later, when I'm much older, still a fan of Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man, and even collecting action figures again, you know I had to get my hands on some of the things for my favorite Spidey. Like this Mafex Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man figure, which was a must-have for me, even though I already owned the SH Figuarts version. And holding this thing in hand, I've gotta say, it takes me straight back to watching Tobey Maguire in the Spider-Man suit for the first time. While it is based on the No Way Home appearance, I do feel this figure also passes quite well as a classic Raimi trilogy Tobey, beautiful from head to toe and full of a lot of happy memories for me. Even the head sculpts included are what really make it stand out, because I feel like looking at it next to my SH Figuarts, this is the best one on the market right now when it comes to 1/12 scale. But it also goes beyond how the figure looks. Everything that it comes with also tells a story. There's different hands, web effects, the cure from No Way Home which helped the villains, magnetic feet that let you stick them to any metal surface, and replicate wall crawling without a stand. There's even a Doctor Strange interdimensional portal, which is what Tobey comes through in No Way Home along with Andrew, and I think that this is just a really fun and nice display piece to have for the figure. And while this figure is truly amazing, one of the best in my collection, one of my favorites, and I just love everything that it offers, it does make me sad every now and then, because it reminds me that we're never going to see that fourth Sam Raimi film, like, at all. What we got in No Way Home was kind of the closing of that chapter. And I think that's why this figure and Spider-Man No Way Home mean so much to me. It's a clear send-off to that era of Spider-Man. The good thing is that with the release of No Way Home, it did end that very long hiatus of not really seeing any figures or any other products for Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or even something like Andrew Garfield. As someone that likes Lego sets and originally started here on YouTube with a Lego channel, it's nice to see that we are getting things like this, which is the Spider-Man 3 set that Lego recently released with Sandman, Venom, and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in there, and even having things like the train set, which I also have. But at the end of the day, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man only exists because of one thing that came long before the movie ever could.
So I wrote down a list of names. Insect Man didn't have it. Mosquito Man wasn't dramatic. Finally, I hit on Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
So before Tobey Maguire ever put on a suit, or Andrew, Tom Holland, or even Miles Morales, there was one comic book that started all of it. In 1962, we saw the release of The Amazing Fantasy, issue number 15. This is when Stan Lee took a leap of faith on a character within a series that was on the verge of cancellation, and it struck a chord that never stopped resonating. Now, I wasn't a comic book kid growing up. I mean, I had very little of them in my collection, and Spider-Man found me through a screen, not a page. But even I understood and understand even more now how everything I loved about this character started here. So it was only right that somewhere in my collection I'd have some sort of comic-related Spider-Man figure. Enter the Marvel Legends Maximum Spider-Man. In a lot of ways, this does feel like a 90s Todd McFarlane style figure, and on the surface you can see exactly why when you look at things like the web pattern or even the symbol on his chest. But when you look closer at something like the unmasked head, you'll see it looks very similar to the artwork of Erik Larsen. So it's not a 100% McFarlane style Spider-Man figure, it's just a love letter I feel to an entire era of Spider-Man art, and that's what I think definitely makes this figure unique. What you also get with this figure is genuinely impressive for the price. I mean, this thing retailed at maybe about $50 or so when it first released, and you get things like web effects, multiple hand options, even ungloved Peter Parker hands showing the web shooters on his forearm. There's even a spider sense effect that looks straight out of the comics, and this thing just poses really well. when I'm messing with this figure, it just feels like there's a whole freedom to it, and that's something that the expensive stuff doesn't quite give you, because with a Mafex figure, like we looked at, you kind of have to be careful, a bit more precise, and with this one, you get to push it to its limit, get a bit rough with it, and it all still holds up. I mean, for a figure that cost about $50 when it first released, has comic style detail that looks really nice, and even has a load of accessories that you'd expect from a figure 2 times the price, I think this figure is definitely deserving of that maximum title. When it comes to comics, they never stop evolving. We're still seeing many different versions of Spider-Man to this day, and the same thing goes for the action figures. Now, the first time I got this figure in my hands, I could not put it down, and it brought me back to a moment I hadn't experienced in a while with an action figure, especially a Spider-Man one, and that was absolute, pure joy. We're talking the kind you get when something just exceeds all expectations, or when you're a kid, like just getting your first toy for the first time and playing with it endlessly. That's exactly what this Rebeltech Amazing Yamaguchi Spider-Man 2.0 version did for me. You see, comics never stood still, and they still haven't to this day. Spider-Man has worn dozens of suits across hundreds of stories, changed, evolved, and been reimagined by countless artists. And that change is exactly what's kept him alive for over 60 years, with new fans growing every day. The figure pulls from one of the more experimental chapters in Spider-Man's comic history. This suit comes from the Spider-Man comic run that started around 2015, a period where Peter Parker had actually built his own tech company, Parker Industries, essentially becoming the universe's version of Tony Stark. Now, Kyoto didn't just recreate this suit with Amazing Yamaguchi, they kind of pushed it further in a lot of ways. Their own interpretation of what Spider-Man looks like when you can take that design and go as far as possible. I mean, when you think about it, comic book artists aren't really bound by human anatomy or physics or anything like that. They draw Spider-Man and a lot of other comic characters in poses that sometimes shouldn't be possible. We're talking exaggerated, dynamic, and a lot of figures, on the other hand, are quite limited at times. This figure, however, has zero limits, and I said this in the past when I first unboxed this figure on the channel, and I still feel that way to this very moment. Just the way you're able to push joints in certain ways on this figure and really exaggerate the poses that you try to pull off to recreate how Spider-Man moves and feels in the comics or movies or video games, it can do all of it, which is just a blast to mess around with, and it really adds to that play factor and sort of like endless imagination with a figure, which I think is very important when having a figure in your collection, especially if you're a child or even someone that's just a fan of the character growing older and wanting to have something physical in hand that reminds you of them. But there's another evolution of the character we haven't seen yet in any of these figures. It's not when you're watching Spider-Man on the big screen or reading the pages of a comic book, it's when you kind of become the character. Spider-Man in gaming goes all the way back to the Atari 2600 in 1982. In this entire game, you're basically just climbing a building while the Green Goblin is attacking you, and that's it. And yet somehow, that was enough to start something that eventually led to us getting the Insomniac game many years later. And as consoles evolved, the games got better, from things like Marvel vs. Capcom to LEGO Marvel Superheroes, which I will still go to bat for as one of the most fun ways to experience Spider-Man and the entire Marvel universe. I remember seeing Marvel vs. Capcom on an arcade machine once, and then seeing Spider-Man in the game and just having my mind absolutely blown at the fact that Spider-Man was actually in this game alongside other Marvel characters. And then eventually being able to play that game and having an absolute blast playing as Spidey. So when Tamashii Nations released their SH Figuarts Marvel vs. Capcom style Spider-Man, I was absolutely in need of that figure. It genuinely looks like it walked straight out of the video game. The sculpted web lines really bring it to life, the web shield, and even the cardboard cutout of his ultimate web throw move. This figure really feels and looks like how the character did during that evolution of the Marvel vs. Capcom franchise, and while it may not move as freely as other Spider-Man figures in my collection or other ones that are out there, I do feel that it's able to get some pretty nice poses out of it. But not everyone has played Marvel vs. Capcom. Maybe some of your experience comes from other Spider-Man games released over the years, like Insomniac Spider-Man. Now, I was not fortunate enough to play this game at launch because at the time it was on a PlayStation 4 and I did not own that system, so I had to wait and keep waiting And then eventually, at some point, they finally released it on PC. And the moment I picked that game up, I mean, I didn't want to put it down because that's how much I was enjoying playing as this character, and that whole hype and anticipation to finally play this game really kicked in. I also don't think I've ever cried playing a video game until I played Insomniac Spider-Man. That's how good this game is. Now, SH Figuarts did release a figure of the game's main suit along with a suit that you see later in the game, and a friend of mine, Nico, also known as Artman Customs, had a copy of the first figure, so I was fortunate enough to be able to get it from him, and I'm glad that he did pass it down to me. Now yeah, the figure by today's standards is definitely showing its age. It doesn't move as freely as any other Spider-Man figure in my collection, or even the Marvel vs. Capcom version I have from SH Figuarts. But I do feel what this figure gets right is the suit. Not everything has to be perfect to be meaningful, I feel, and the accessories that it comes with do add on to that experience. The spider drone that I remember piloting in the game, the phone, the display stand. I'm just hoping that Tamashii Nations will eventually upgrade the figures for these suits, and maybe even give us versions of the characters from Spider-Man 2, because that game was also a blast to play the first time, and it has some pretty interesting suit designs that I think would look pretty awesome in action figure form. Now, we've taken a look at a lot of different Spider-Man figures so far, all in different eras and evolution of the character, but there's one more version I think we definitely need to take a look at and check out, especially with Brand New Day on the way. This is SH Figuarts' No Way Home Final Swingsuit. As I hold this figure in hand, it takes me back to a moment that was very important to me when being a fan of Spider-Man. I'm talking opening night, No Way Home is in theaters, the theater is packed, and the final scene plays. Just Peter Parker alone, starting over after all that he experienced in the movie, and then he swings for the very first time in his brand new suit. And the whole theater just felt something there in that moment, like it was a new beginning for Spider-Man. Because I don't feel that No Way Home was just another movie or just there for nostalgia bait. In a way, it was a celebration of the character. And a thank you to everyone who grew up with Spider-Man in different parts of his evolution, whether it be Tobey or Andrew or a comic or video game, before ushering in Tom Holland's next stage as the character and whatever comes next. And this suit is that moment in physical form. And what I love about the design is just what it doesn't do. I mean, the MCU loves overcomplicating Spider-Man suits and many other suits for other characters, more lines, more tech, and this one just strips all of that back. It's clean, simple, and just traditional, and I love that a lot. One of my favorite details is the spider emblem on the chest, which does remind me a lot of Tobey Maguire's suit, even the back spider emblem. One of the ways I see it is that this is basically a preview of what's coming, because the Brand New Day suit uses a similar foundation and look. The difference here is that it's darker, less metallic, but it's just the same base of what we saw in No Way Home and now having it in Brand New Day, which means this figure is both a closing chapter and a first look at what's to come, and that's a rare thing. Just the thought and idea of a new generation experiencing Spider-Man for the first time when Brand New Day hits theaters, and even older fans just continuing their passion for the character, with Tom Holland continuing this role, just feels really exciting, and it's a feeling like none other. Because that's always been Spider-Man's secret gift. Every generation gets their own, and every fan of the character will always have something to learn and appreciate about him. At the start of the search for the perfect Spider-Man figure, I thought I would find a single answer, one winner, and that it would be the end-all, be-all answer for every Spider-Man fan going forward, but I found a completely different answer that I didn't expect. Because Spider-Man has never belonged to just one version, he's been redrawn, rewritten, reimagined over 60 years, and every single time, somehow, someone saw themselves in him. The kid in the theater, the one with the controller, the one with the comic under their pillow, or even the kid like me many years ago watching Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in that living room for the first time. So yeah, my perfect Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire, and that's never going to change. I mean, having something like the Mafex figure truly does mean the world to me, and it's a nice way to have a memory of this character that means so much. But then I also like things like the Revoltech figure that really just blows me away every single time. I think one of the things I'm realizing is that there's always going to be different versions of Spider-Man that I really like, and ones that just keep growing my appreciation of who he is as a character and how much he means to me. Because yours might be a comic book panel at one moment, or a screen at 2 in the morning, or even a theater this month for the very first time. There's a figure out there for all of it, and many other ways to experience this character no matter what. And maybe that's exactly what makes Spider-Man, Spider-Man. He was never just meant to be one thing, one character, and just for one type of person, but instead, he was meant there to be for everyone, and especially whenever they needed him. And I think that's one of the other reasons why I really like this character.